During our morning meeting this week, and I know I put some of this in the email, but I felt like I was falling. It was like my energy was fading, and I quickly found myself just engulfed in silence. I had no desire to move, and I had no desire to speak. And, Gracie and Lisa and Lynn and Darlene were there, and I could see and hear them, but I was so aware I had nothing to say. And it was strange. And many of you know, I always seem to have something to say. But I couldn't say anything. And I don't know if the words were actually spoken, but I felt like I was asked, how was I, if I was okay, and how did I feel? How did I feel? I felt empty. Though I was experiencing such an emptiness that I can't even put it into words. And I was aware of my exhaustion, of the grief, of the pain, but there was something else there. There was something, and it didn't get rid of those other things, but it diminished my focus on the exhaustion and on the pain and on the suffering. And what I felt their kindness. I felt that I was being held. I felt loved. I felt them noticing me. I felt them listening to me even when no words fell from my lips. I felt their presence. And and I put it in the email, but the word kindness seems so insufficient. And yet in the original Hebrew, that word hesed, which we sometimes translate as kindness, it means all of that and more. It literally encompasses all the attributes of God. And listen, our English language cannot adequately translate that word and many other Hebrew words. And wrapped up in that word are love, mercy, kindness, gentleness, faithfulness, grace, and all devotional acts. And what the Jews consider devotional acts are the acts that are beyond the law. They're beyond all requirements. They're beyond duty. They're unattached to commandments or institution. And what I experienced Wednesday really was hesed. It was kindness. And I believe that's what Robert was trying to describe to me on Thursday when we met at exit 153. And I just want to read a couple of things he said. He said, what I feel is home. It doesn't matter how long it's been, I immediately feel at home when we meet. And I feel at home here. I feel at home with you. And Steve, an organization will resemble its leader, whether you want to be referred to as a leader or not. And what I feel is this place, exit 153, feels like you. I feel safe here. I feel welcome here. I feel at home here. I feel free to be myself here. Maybe that's what this place is. A space that feels like home. And as he left, and we talked a lot more, but as he left and he turned to leave, he said, tell me again, why is this called exit 153? And I said, well, JFK is exit 153 off of I-40, and biblically the number 153 represents a full catch. It represents wholeness. When Jesus told the disciples to drop the net on the other side of the boat, even though they knew how to fish, he asked them to do it in a different way, an alternative way, and they experienced a full catch of 153 fish. the maximum amount that their nets could carry without breaking. And so after he left, I just began to just ponder. So maybe this space represents wholeness. Maybe we are experiencing home. Maybe we represent refuge and safety and connection and freedom. Maybe exit 153, which really, exit 153 is us. It's not a geographical place. Yes, there is a geographical representation there, but that is us. That place physically really represents all of us, because all of us ooze that hesed, that kindness, that home, that safety, that love. So maybe what we feel when we're together really is what the Jews described as hesed. And it is hesed that is leading us, that is drawing us. It is God's hesed, his kindness, that leads us to repentance. It's his kindness that opens our hearts and allows us to have our minds changed. It is his kindness that opens our eyes and allows illusions to be exposed. His loving kindness, which literally is the word hesed, is better than life. Surely goodness and hesed will follow us all the days of our lives. It is kindness that exposes illusion and reveals presence. It reveals connection and the reality of our oneness. It's not doctrine, it's not law, it's not rules, it's not even the Bible, although the Bible describes this process. No wonder Paul said to let our kindness be felt and seen by everyone. I want to read to you Psalm 37, 7 through 9. It says, "How precious is your hesed, O God! All people may take refuge in the shadow of your wings." All people. How blessed is your hesed. All people may take refuge. All. Not just the Jews. All. Every single one may take refuge. Where? Really, in your kindness. Surely goodness and hesed will follow me all the days of my life, is what David said in Psalm 23. Hesed appears more than 190 times in the Torah. And like many Hebrew words, it does not translate precisely into other languages, including English. In Judaism, the word, and I already told you, it contains and represents all the attributes of God. It's found 248 times in our modern translations of the Bible. God's hesed is described as grace, love, mercy, faithfulness, and is seen as selfless, compassionate, gentle, kind, long-suffering, warm, caring, generous, holy, gracious, meek, lowly. God's hesed is seen as lowly. And hesed is available to all. And I had to reread and reread. It is available to all. And it doesn't say even the, excuse me, it says it's available to all, especially enemies, especially the least among us. So it's not, it's available to all the Jews and all the Christians and, maybe even some. No, the way it reads, it's especially available to those who are not Jews. In the way this was written in the Hebrew. That's a real paradox. That's really kind of a mystery. And it's easy for us to say, oh, well, yeah, it's not just the Jews, it's the Christians. Well, it's not just the Christians, it's everyone. It's all. And we'll see this even more in a minute. Jesus is the ultimate example and model of hesed. You want to know what hesed looks like? Look at Jesus. And our logo at exit 153 reads, kindness just ahead. And I want to just read a few statements and quotes about kindness. And this one is from a book on grieving and hospice that I had read. When people are dying, no amount of skill will earn trust like kindness. Kindness compels us to show up. Skill, position, knowledge, understanding, experience, manipulation, or any sense of responsibility or accountability will not compel us to show up as kindness does. Kindness notices. Kindness feels. Kindness responds. This is what I felt last Wednesday. I felt kindness noticing and feeling and responding. And somewhere within the midst of that, I didn't feel alone. It didn't remove my exhaustion, didn't remove my pain, but I didn't feel alone. And I really feel like Richard Rohr's Center for Action and Contemplation, really this is what he's talking about, because without contemplation, we don't notice. And without noticing, we don't feel what others are feeling. And without feeling, we do not have the ability to respond in kindness or compassion. We may perform. We may focus on programs and set up all kinds of things to do, but it is kindness that draws us to actually suffer with others. Kindness is soft. Kindness is welcoming. Kindness opens doors and opens hearts. Kindness leads us to change. Kindness listens. Kindness observes. Kindness inspires. It literally is a breath of fresh air. Kindness is a cup of cold water. And yet, kindness may not do anything. Sometimes kindness manifests as simply being present and performing no acts at all. It was mostly their presence, Gracie's and Lynn's and Lisa's and Darlene's last Wednesday, that allowed me to feel covered and loved and held and not alone. Sometimes the response is silence. Sometimes it's tears. Sometimes it may be food. Sometimes it may be hugs. Sometimes there may be words. But kindness is more than activity. It's interacting. It's connecting with others. It's being present. But at the same time, without kindness, without presence or noticing or feeling, our actions could actually be just noise. Could be clanging cymbals. Our desire and our tendency as humans, we love identifying words, separating words, and doing. What I'm finding more and more and more and more in the Hebrew, there's not all these different words that we need to know these 12 things. We need to know these 42 things. It's like in the Hebrew, love and kindness and mercy and presence and faithfulness, they're all the same word. It's so unbelievably simple, but we have made it very complicated. We've separated and divided things that never needed to be separated and divided, so that we could know something about something. Paul tells the followers in Rome that it's God's kindness that leads us to repentance. It's his hesed that allows us to have our minds changed. And he continues right after that. I never saw this in Romans. This They added this here in the last couple of weeks. It's a new verse in Romans. It says, do not underestimate the wealth of his kindness. Do not underestimate the wealth of God's hesed. When did they add that to the Bible? I never saw that before. And as the psalmist sang, his loving kindness is better than life. And what Paul told us last week as we were reading in Philippians, let your kindness be seen and felt by a few. By the ones who claim to be Jews, who claim to be Christians, who claim by everyone. Let your kindness be seen and felt by everyone. Kindness connects us to others, whether we're the recipient or the giver. And I'm going to say that again. Kindness connects us whether we're the recipient or the giver. And by the way, if we do not receive kindness, we cannot give kindness. We may perform something, an act, a doing, but unless we have received, we cannot give. And if we don't operate in hesed, we tend to operate in a quid quo pro system, which literally means something for something. So if we receive something, then we feel we need to give something. We think we need to pay others back in order to remain at least sort of even. I mean, maybe they've given a little more, but we don't want to be way out of balance. I mean, that just wouldn't be right. So we end up thinking we ought to do something, and so we keep track of the actions, of the things we give and the things that others give. Why? So we don't feel indebted. We don't want to feel overly needy. We don't want to feel indebted to others. This is not hesed, and actually it appears to be the exact opposite of Jesus' words that are found in Luke. So, love your enemies. Do good to them and give to them who cannot give in return. Give without expecting anything in return. And then your experience in hesed will be like God. For he is kind to the ungrateful and the wicked. Once again, they keep putting these new verses in. He is kind to the ungrateful and the wicked. So be merciful. Be hesed. Be merciful just as your Father is hesed. So be hesed just as your Father is hesed. Be merciful just as your Father is merciful. I'm just constantly amazed at how much I desire to control things. And it affects everything. I mean, honestly, I think most of the time, I want to control what I give and what I receive because, I don't want it to get too out of balance. I mean, I don't want to be the only one. I don't want to be giving all the time, but also don't want to be receiving all the time. And so somewhere I want to control. And anytime I want to control what's actually happening is I'm cutting off the flow by my very act of control. When I can't receive, it actually paralyzes my ability to give. Hesed, which remember, that includes grace, that includes love, that includes mercy, it includes all those words that we've learned in different ways our entire lives. If I'm trying to control grace, love, then really I'm not receiving it, and I cannot give it. What I give is a performance. And what is awesome and amazing about God is even here, I'm okay, and even here, I'm covered. And even here, God is present with me and loving me and holding me and encouraging me and bringing me to the end of myself so that my grip does loosen and my hands do open. Loving kindness is unrelenting, it's irresistible, and it will always overcome my resistance to it. And I just want to ask y'all a couple of questions. What does Hesed look like and feel like to you? And is there a place where you are experiencing and you're aware of Hesed in your life? And the third question is, are you aware of places where you're attempting to control? Attempting to control either the receiving of or the giving of Hesed.